right, welcome to another episode of Girls in the Quantum. Nancy Pentilla, quantum healer from Timmins, Ontario, is here with me, Susan Hum, the love hacker from Montreal. And today we are going to talk about how do we help somebody get better, heal, or even have a better life if they are fighting us on it. Is that even possible? Nancy, are we ready to dive into this?
Yes, we are. Hello, everybody.
Oh man, it's one of the biggest topics and subjects that I've worked with people for the long, even for myself. I'm going to share a lot of stories on my own life that I've had to really go deep within myself and let go. And letting go is such a huge subject, but this is one of the letting goes that is the hardest because it's tied to either people we love, people we care about, people that are even not hiring us. So I have a lot of clients that are coming to me. It's like, how do I deal with my family member? They're not understanding me. They don't want to change, and so on. So yeah, and I'm sure you have a lot of examples too, even with clients or even family members. It doesn't matter. It's at what point do we just let it go, even though we know that person needs us to be better? Isn't that the hardest thing, Nancy?
So hard. Like, especially, well, with clients, it's really hard. With family, it's even harder because they don't listen to you. Typically, family will not listen to you if you're trying to help them. Some do. Like, my dad was pretty good for, at least letting me do what I wanted to do, whether he really fully accepted it or not, but he would allow it. He would try it. Yeah, it can be so challenging. Like, I have a client right now whose blood pressure has been through the roof, and she was responding so negatively to the blood pressure medication. She was getting extreme chest pain, and one of the side effects to the medications was heart attack. So you're trying to prevent a heart attack, yet a side effect is that. So we decided to do a major cleanse for her liver to help, filter the blood properly, so the heart doesn't have to work so hard to pump it through the body. And anyways, so she would always complain about every recipe and everything we tried to do, like every meditation, hypnosis, just didn't want to receive anything. It was really, really frustrating. She's older. I noticed that when she liked watching the news and stuff like that. So when she'd watch the news, her blood pressure would go up like to almost 200, for her systolic, which is super high, and almost 100 for diastolic. Like, those are super high numbers. And I'd have to get her to meditate or do breath work. And she didn't mind the breath work. When she did that, it would go down dramatically to like 150 over 76 kind of thing. But breath work to her was kind of acceptable, but man, like not many other things. So energy healing, I have to get like an acceptance for that with people. Like, I'm not just going to send energy to someone if they don't want it. Like, it's up to them. We all have free will, and it's not my right to interfere if they don't want to accept it. So it was challenging, and she still has a lot of struggles with diet and stuff, like she has improved and can still live without medication, but she goes into like depressions and gets into drama and stuff like that. So that'll shoot blood pressure up dramatically. So this kind of person will always kind of be at risk. Even with the medication, it couldn't balance that because your emotions override the effects of anything you're ingesting. Like, it doesn't matter what it is, So I would pray for her and, send love, those kind of things. But the energy healing, you have to have permission. So it was frustrating for sure. So
that's so true. That's one of the things is that, of course, family members is really difficult. I mean, I've been dealing with, my father's nearly 80. He has his ways and he has his habits. And these are negative patterns and habits that he's had all his life. So here I am coming in at like when he's 70 or so, and just trying to get him to see things the way that I see things, or getting him to be logical, because he does some things like you said, like it could be as simple as your health. Like, can you just preventatively help yourself so that you don't wait until the disasters happen or so on? So the preventative mindset, oh my gosh, it's like he'll hear me or he'll just blow me off, but then he'll go and do exactly what he shouldn't do, even though his blood pressure is affected. He's on blood pressure meds. And so unless it's coming from a doctor, and even then he'll listen for a week and then he'll go right back. And it's so frustrating when you're watching your loved one, someone you care about so much, to go through. And then I get into the more like dictatorship, and it's no longer a loving relationship now. I feel like I'm the dictator, and my sister is so much more patient than I am with that type of thing. She's not patient on other things, but she's so much more compassionate and empathetic, and she's constantly, and thank goodness I have that in my other ear saying, Susan, he's nearly 80. Just let him live whatever way he wants to. He can go, like, he could go in 10 years, he could go in 20 years, he could go in a year, but why are you torturing him like this? And I really had that in my ear. She's like telling me off all the time. Just let him be, let him live his life. Like, at what point? And I'm like, I know and then I fall into the guilt because I went from dictatorship to guilt and self-sabotage. Right? Like,
Oh, yeah.
it's
It's a
all,
cycle.
it is. So now I'm working towards, okay, I still speak to him and say it to him with more loving ways. But what I've had to remove was the expectation, because I was going down the rabbit hole. My whole life was revolved around making him see the way I see it. And that's not good. When my life is affected, no, that's when I have to wake up and smell the dog shit, because it's really not a good thing. We start taking on other people's lives as if it's ours, right?
That's great advice. Cause yeah, I've done it too. Absolutely. Even with clients, I've done it like in the past. It's hard not to because you care so much and you're afraid of the path they're going down because you know it's not going to be good for them. And they're just going to create more suffering, possibly, or, some kind of sudden death, which maybe is a blessing to them, but not to those around them. So it's frustrating. And you only get so passionate about it because you care so much, because you love so deeply. It's not a bad thing. It's just it comes off as dictatorship, but really it's love. It's very much love. It's fearful love, but it's love, right? So that's where love and fear can coincide in a way, because you care so deeply and you just want what's best for them. But people don't think of prevention. Most people don't. We've run all kinds of different programs online for people, and people don't care about prevention at all. Preventing disease is whatever till they get it. And even then trying to get them to change their lifestyles. Like, I've had clients come to me for energy healing that have had cancer and all kinds of diseases. And I remember a few of them just saying, I ain't becoming no vegan. And I'm like, okay, so you don't want any anti-inflammatory recipes at all. Like, you're just totally going down the McDonald's path. Some of them, I'm still eating my McDonald's, and some of them, still thrive. It's crazy. But I guess when they're eating that stuff and they believe it's good for them, that impacts them somehow in a positive way, which is crazy.
Yeah. When it comes to the whole dietary thing and body thing, it's a lot of it is mindset. Not everything is mindset.
No.
However, the mindset does have a lot to do with it. I mean, I eat a pretty healthy, I don't, I'm more a balanced eater rather than a healthy eater. Like,
Balanced drinker.
yeah, balanced drinker, balanced everything. Like, my husband always says, Susan's food groups is carbs, fat, alcohol, and I don't need sugar, right? It's like those are my three food groups: fat, alcohol, and carbs. And but the great thing is I've worked myself to the point where I'm conscious about what I'm eating, but I'm not paranoid. I'm not, and I listen to my body. If my body doesn't feel good nowadays, then I just don't. And I think that's the only thing I've had to really crush, because I love my chips, I love my French fries, I love my carbs, pasta, rice, you name it. Veggies, yeah, I force it down because I know I have to have my greens, but I'd rather drink a green juice, like powder, than to eat the actual greens. So every meal, my husband's like, so where is the green portion of the plate? I'm like, okay, I'll boil you some broccoli or something. I don't know.
I boil it to death. There's nothing left.
But yeah, people always ask us, like, how the heck do you eat what you eat? Because believe me, I eat a lot, and I eat like not necessarily always the healthiest. But the one thing also, it's the emotions and the thoughts and the feelings you have towards what you're eating as well.
Yes, that can make you toxic too. Yeah, when you're forcing something down and you hate it, it's definitely not creating healing within. And that's something I discovered with clients too. I would try to force them to have certain things, and then they're so like freaked out about it. And I'm like, this isn't helping them. So I gotta help balance you out in a different way. And yeah, green powders, like, it's like you have no
Well,
choice
it's
sometimes.
better than nothing. At least I'm
Yeah.
putting green powder in. And I think forcing people to love something, that's the thing that really kills us in the whole body image and body, letting go of all that stuff and the rules, the system, and really reconnecting with our body. And I think when we're letting go of people we love in terms of letting them go energetically, the control over
Yes.
what they should do, because that word should is such a negative word. It is such a negative word. Like, why should my father live the way I think he should live? Just what? I'm a coach. So what? I'm successful in my life. So what? Who cares? I worked with a client not too long ago who has a partner in life with so many fears and OCD behaviors that she was trying to, because she's a very powerful woman, but her partner had all these fears and OCD tendencies. Well, not tendencies, they are, because when you start piling up things in fear of the end of the world or so on, I'm sorry, that is, yeah, like remember back in COVID where people were stocking up on toilet paper, like as if, like,
Well, yeah, the
don't
first
you
thing
need
they said
food more than
was like,
toilet paper?
yeah, I couldn't find it anywhere. It's like, they're paying like an arm and a leg for a package of it, It's like, yeah, it was crazy. But they did
Oh,
say there was going to be a food shortage eventually and stuff. So I could see like people were panicking, but you can't hoard it all. I mean, there are people that do need some too. Like, I mean, there were people buying like everything in the store. And that is, oh my gosh, like there's other families. There's like, and there was no food shortage, like really. Well, in some places they said there were pictures of grocery stores. Some places did have some, but it wasn't worldwide.
of course not. And this is the thing. We have to learn how to really think for ourselves. So when it comes to even the, like, no, I didn't even buy one toilet paper sheet more than any other time. It was always like, there's, and even Kevin said to me, he's like, well, why are we going to hoard it all? Don't people need to all have their equal amount of toilet paper? I
Yeah.
mean, it's so ridiculous now, but that's the whole thing about, having to let go of the need to help somebody, because I'm telling you, with the whole people pleasing, people savior complex that we all somehow struggle with in our journey towards a higher consciousness or empowerment, especially for women, we need to know who to let go and who to, whatever happened to respecting somebody's free will. If
Yeah, they have to.
we have to, right?
Hurts sometimes, like big time. It hurts when you know what can help them, but yeah, we have to respect them.
Well, here's the thing. Very recently, I've been dealing with somebody I love dearly, somebody very close to me. And I remember he's going through a divorce, and it's so difficult to watch him go through this. And I'm like at him, and he knows mindset. He knows healing, but I'm at him because he's not doing it. He's just allowing himself to sit there as a victim to the perpetrator. And so I'm at him. And usually clients, if he were a client, I'd be like, you know what? Sucks to be you. Go for it. I'll see you when you hit the wall 100 times, right? But with family members, you just can't, like people you love, you can't do it. It's so hard. So I remember him having a really heart-to-heart conversation with me, and I'm trying to listen. I'm trying to not be that person that just pushes it into his heart to do something different. And he just said to me, Susan, I know you love me. I know you're doing this out of love, but I know what I'm doing might be wrong, but just let me do it. Let me do it. Let me choose my path. And I'm like, oh, and he's right.
Yeah.
So
No,
I had to, pardon me?
he is right. It's true. They have to live still and how they want to live, what brings them happiness, even if they're uncomfortable and they're happy in that discomfort. Like it's hard.
It is hard. So I remember right after that, I spoke to my husband. I said, okay, you're gonna have to take over because I don't know how to not go into it. So my husband had to take over and just deal with the communication, because my husband's a lot less emotional about it, because, and I just literally, I did an exercise. I did an exercise where I just respectfully, on a soul level, detach whatever outcome happens. I know that it's for the soul's path to really go the way that they're supposed to go, right? But it's scary because like you just I just had to not take responsibility, not even put an input in it. He knows how I feel. God knows, after months and months of me saying the same thing, I'm getting angry. But you know what? About 2-3 weeks after that, he started making a turnaround, started doing things that were better for him. He manifested better things to happen. I'm like, man, it's so hard to let them go. But you know what, though? A lot of us are hindering somebody else's well-being by holding on to that need to save them.
Oh, absolutely. And we can plant seeds, but we can't harass. Like, I've harassed. I have. Like, I know I have in the past. It's hard not to sometimes, but planting seeds seriously goes into their subconscious and can start a change within them eventually, if it's meant to.
If it's meant to. That's the whole thing. Whatever happened to faith, the whole concept of faith? You know how people say,
Yes.
oh, follow the faith, don't follow the fear. They're like two F's, right? The fear of the faith. But
Yes.
here we are, like, whenever we're trying to go over the person's respectful boundaries, and boundaries does mean that they are allowed to self-sabotage if they want. If that's what
Yes.
they're do.
Yeah, their soul's learning and growing even through the pain of self-sabotage. Absolutely. It's heartbreaking to watch. It's so freaking hard. But yet there's some people that live to like 100 and they're smoking and drinking and eating junk constantly. And you're like, what the? Like, it's crazy. Most people wouldn't survive that, but there's some that do. You know, I had a friend, he's a good friend of mine, and his dad passed away from cancer years ago, and his father became an alcoholic. So anyway, my friend went to the hospital while he was on his deathbed, and he brought him alcohol. And his brothers were so mad at him. And I thought, you know what? How kind of you to actually do that for him, because he obviously, that was a vice for him to numb himself through some kind of pain or trauma. And he did that for his dad. Like, and yeah, a lot of people would shun that, but I'm like, you know what? You made your dad comfortable with that. Even though your brothers were giving you a hard time, others may be judging you, but you put his needs before you. And that seriously, like, is incredible. Like, not that it's healthy, but he's on his deathbed. So, you know, like my dad, when he was bedridden at our house, Luke would make him the odd drink here and there. My dad wasn't an alcoholic, but he enjoyed a rye sometimes, right? And I'd be like, and we had to like thicken everything. He was allergic to cornstarch. He was allergic to that. So we had to use like applesauce for everything. So Luke would make him a rye and ginger with applesauce once in a while. It was so funny. And he'd ask me to make one once in a blue moon. I'd be like, no, Dad, it's not good for you. Like, what was I doing that for? He was bedridden. He was getting physiotherapy for me. His legs were this big. I'm like, what am I doing to my father? He's doing this for me because I'm the suck who wants to keep her daddy forever. Right? Like, he's suffering for me. And that's just not right. I look back and I'm like, oh my God, I feel so awful about it. But Luke would bring a smile to his face. He'd pass out after one drink and have a great night's sleep. You know, like he loved having a drink once in a while. Well, who doesn't? Like, some people don't, but I like a drink once in a while. And yet I was so like, just so militant. Crazy.
Know.
But anyway.
You know what it is? It's our actions is purely based on the fear of losing them, you know. And in the end of the day, you're right. It is for us. It's not for them. I mean, who has the right to take over our right to decide how we want to live? And you're very right, though, because my great aunt just passed away. I think she was 105. Like, no joke. My great aunt was 105.
Wow.
She's never eaten one grain of organic in her entire life. She's eaten dirty Chinese food not dirty Chinese food, but you know what I mean. It's like grease-stricken stir-fried Chinese food her entire life. Like, she's never followed a healthy regime, and it's healthy in her way. But in the end of the day, come on, I think we've gone really overboard in the mindset world. Is like as if everybody who thinks they're empowered is out there to try to empower everybody. It's just so ridiculous. But let me give a reality check to everybody out there. And I've been saying this to my clients because I mentor coaches, right? Not everyone, it's a very big percentage of people in this world that will never hit their potential in this life. We are not here to hit our potential. We're here to go towards our potential and become the person we're going to become as far as we're going to go. Not everybody hits their potential. I don't even know if the Dalai Lama has hit his potential. So whenever we use the excuse of, well, I see so much potential for them. Well, that's your story, not theirs.
Yeah, that's right. And it's okay to plant seeds. You can plant a seed that you see potential in them, but to harass, like it's the being on them constantly is not, it's going to deter them from following a divine path. It's going to scare them away. But if you just gently plant seeds and just let them know what you see, but maybe it'll bring them to go within and actually see something within themselves. Maybe what you're seeing isn't really their truth, but if they start going within and trying to seek what it is within that they're, carrying within the gifts they have to share, maybe they'll discover because you planted a seed. But harassing, oh man, doesn't work. They'll run the other way.
The only reason, yeah, of course, because when you force anything,
you can't force anything.
Yeah, everything you force will reject you. That's just the way it is. So if you come from the mindset world or the healing world, if you're not flowing with somebody and you're forcing something on somebody, they're always going to hit rejection.
Yeah. We don't know what the outcome's meant to be. Only our creator does. Only God knows. So, and faith, going back to faith, we have faith in our cell phones more than we have faith in a higher power. And that's why the world is suffering so much, because that's what we believe in is our freaking cell phones, our AI. Like, no, it's like, hello, we have a higher power. Why do you think your heart's beating? Like, anyway, we've moved so far away from true faith and true, like, you don't have to have a label, but I mean, seriously, there is something that's beating your heart and breathing life into you. And when you start to connect to that, connect to your breath, connect to your soul, magic happens. That's where the answers are. The answers aren't in your phone. Like, not really,
Yeah. You're planting seeds is totally, you're entitled to plant seeds. But planting seeds is just to see how the other person reacts or responds. If somebody is rejecting you, it means you are not in integrity with the universal law of respect, right? Of just being able to give and receive. Now you're over giving, which is force. So anything that's over giving, you're forcing now. You're pushing yourself upon somebody else's boundaries and space. Somebody does have the right to say, listen, I don't want to be better. I want to continue eating pizzas. I want to stay 1,000 pounds, whatever the case may be. If that's the case, you have a responsibility to respond in the way you're going to respond. You need to start respecting. And I think we live in a world that doesn't know what respect means. If you do it a certain way, it's either I will accept it or I don't. Right? If I don't accept it, then I have to figure out how to respond. Either you let it go and you do some work on how to let it go. But the more we force never works, especially not in this higher consciousness in 2023. We are at a higher consciousness now. We are moving towards another dimension, which means force is not welcome. And if you try to force now, as opposed to a few years ago, the backlash is 100 times worse. Have you seen that?
Oh, yes. It's the 3D matrix is where you're forcing, right? We are definitely ascending into a higher state. There's a massive awakening happening on the planet. It's huge. It's crucial that we try to be in flow. So we have to do like more meditations, maybe on letting go, focusing more on your breath, on your heartbeat, on your faith, like not being in the ego so much and in the head and trying to control everything. Planting seeds, you can be the catalyst for change just with planting seeds, but you certainly can't control the outcome. It's not your job.
No. And that's the thing. The only time we force is if we are in fear.
Yes. Right. Flow is love. Fear is force.
Correct. And guess what? If you were truly living in your heart, there is no fear in the heart. The fear only exists in the head.
Yes.
There is no fear in the heart. The heart is unconditional love. It's where your truth is. There is no fear there. However, people are not in alignment with their heart, or they're too much in their heart and they have no thoughts. Their thinking mind is just not developed at all. Yeah. But the thing is, if your thinking mind is not developed, it means the fearful thoughts are just out of control now. What you're feeling is the aftermath of the uncontrolled thoughts, which it's the feeling of fear, but the fear does not exist in the heart. So it's really important that when we're forcing things, we need to just stop and just think about what is going on in our head. I think people are so scared of their thoughts nowadays that they're just numbing their head. But that's very dangerous in today's day because we're bombarded with information that requires critical thinking.
We sure are. Yeah, we're so bombarded. It's crazy. And when we're in our heart, the love that we give from our hearts can be healing, without us having to even necessarily plant seeds. That force is everything. Just loving someone for who they are and the choices they're making. Just loving them can help to heal them so much, because when you love, it raises your vibration, but it raises the vibration all around you. It raises the entire consciousness of the collective. So it's so freaking powerful. But like Tony says, when you're in your head, you're dead. If you're just in your head, you are dead. Like, you're not feeling, you're not in the heart, you're not exuding that love that you are. It can make you go crazy. And I think that's why people are so scared to even like connect to their thoughts or to go within, because people are so afraid that they're mentally ill. Like, there's such a fear that, oh my God, I'm going to get labeled, or there's something wrong with me. We are freaking human. And yes, we can have emotions of all kinds. You're not mentally ill because you have emotions, or you've had a depressive time or depressive day or whatever. Like, you're not mentally ill. You're an emotional being. You're an energetic being. Doesn't mean you have mental illness and you need meds. You just need to feel. You need to go within. You need to do the work and heal your life. Everybody has a story. So there I go. But anyway,
Well,
be in your heart. Yeah.
I think that's why the community we're creating for Girls in the Quantum, it's actually helping people, like you said, start feeling and being safe in that feeling while we teach them how to think again. That's what ultimately, that's what I call emotional intelligence. It's being able to feel while you're thinking. And it has to go hand in hand. Otherwise, you're not aligned. You're not balanced. You don't have control over yourself. Never mind your environment. We can control our environment only to the extent that we control our own self, which is our thinking and our feeling. They have to go hand in hand. So the community for Girls in the Quantum, it's really so powerful as you hold the space. The love sprinkler holds the space for everybody to just be okay to feel for a second. Because if you don't feel, I don't know what to read. I don't care what you think. If you're thinking without being connected to your feeling, it's all BS to me. It's all BS. I need to see what you're feeling for me to be able to help the GPS align with who you are and what you're doing and what you are doing now. Let's not reject ourselves, because the moment we reject ourselves, we're rejecting somebody else. It's a given. It's one of the laws of the universe. So I think letting go of the need to save or control a family member's well-being is one thing, but I see people doing it with their friends. I mean, I family member, I get it. I'm really empathetic. I'm really compassionate. Family member, people you love, your husband, your child.
Oh gosh, yeah, your child is your world. Like, oh yeah, huge.
I'm going to tell you a story of just how powerful the whole letting go technique is, because it can change your entire world, no matter who it is. But my stepson, I've known him since he was 3. There was a connection there that it was so incredible, because it was almost like he's mine, and I couldn't understand why that connection is so deep. Like, he's mine, and that's how he's always treated me too, energetically, even though he knows I'm his stepmom. But energetically, we've never had big fights where he ever said to me, "You're not my mother." He's never like that. It was so weird. So for years I was so resentful that he wasn't mine. I was so going through such a hard emotional time that I had to share him with somebody else. Can you imagine, Nancy? You had to share bread with that's just, it's so hard.
No, I would stay in an unhappy marriage to keep my kid. Like, I'd be like, I wouldn't care. I'd be like, I'm with him every day. Like, that's mine. Love of my life, right?
Right, exactly. And I don't judge you for saying that either, because it is what it is. That's your truth. But I was struggling with it. Oh, I became so resentful. I felt awful. I got competitive. And here I am. I'm like, I can't do this. Because I knew ultimately my connection, my beautiful connection with him would totally break. Because as I became more obsessed with my negative feelings around it, I would try to hold on to him more. And then I would try to compete with his mom. And I don't want to do that. That's his mom. So I was in hell for so many years, but nobody could tell because it's all going on in my own stupid head. But
At least you grew from it and learned from it, because that can push them away more than anything, right? So
no
yeah,
kidding, right?
feel it, I'm sure.
Well, so here's the thing. I remember there was one moment, he was about 15, and he was a very sensitive child. And it's one of those old souls that feel everything. So I talked to him a lot. But I remember I said, I have to let him go. I cannot, for my own well-being, never mind my own well-being, my marriage, and my whole life that I'm working towards achieving my own potential. So I did an exercise, no joke. I did a meditation within myself to put myself through the feelings of what it would be like. Right. So I meditated and I visualized him getting all these awards as he's in his 20s and he's on the podium, just, and thanking everybody for all that he's done in his life and so on. And I visualized him thanking his mom and dad for giving him all the tools and everything that he needed in this life to achieve this. And I remember myself in the audience. I went through all the feelings of, oh, I wasn't recognized. I wasn't validated. I was a stepmom. I was with him all his life, and so on and so on. I went through all those feelings of sadness, of grieving, of just mad, angry, everything. And in the end of that visualization, and it took minutes, it doesn't take long. I remember just looking at him on stage and just had all this pride that I was left with at the end of the meditation, where I'm like, it doesn't matter what I did or what he feels about me. All I care about is that he's good. And that's all that matters. I don't need validation, but I went through all those feelings. No joke. After that, it was really weird. Not long after that, he made the decision to come live with me and Kevin full time. And I ended up having him full time. And that's real. And I didn't even drive the agenda. So it's unbelievable when you let go of that fear, of that need for validation, of that anything that has to do with you concerning another human being. It's going to change your world. I swear it does. But it's all about conquering our fears, isn't it?
Sure is, yeah. And we all have fears. Every one of us has fears, but especially of losing those we love. That I think is the biggest fear ever. I mean, just, yeah, it's intense. When my father passed, I thought my whole life I could never live without my dad. Like, I was obsessed with my dad. He was my hero, my best friend. He still is. Like, I'm still a daddy's girl while he's in heaven. He knows it too. But, when I felt his hands, he went silently. And when I felt his hands and they were frozen and I knew he was gone, oh my gosh, I was still in shock, even though he'd been sick for years after the accidents and everything, the stroke and all that. Oh my gosh, I was still in shock. I couldn't believe he was gone. And what am I going to do without my dad? Like, he was everything to me. And so honestly, it took a few years to really fully be okay with it. It took me 3 years to get out of the clouds. My head was in the clouds. I was still able to work, but I threw myself into work like a workaholic and didn't allow myself to fully process because it was so scary. And people are terrified to even allow tears to flow to the extent they need to, because they think it's going to break them because the pain is so deep, right? So I was guilty of that, and that's years ago, but I still was so guilty of that, and telling people, let the tears flow. Meanwhile, I'm like, 5-HTP, like, I'm taking this, I'm not letting myself be too crazy. But man, is it ever liberating when you allow yourself to let go, even if the person's still alive and you can't control what they're choosing, but to let go of that responsibility, let go of that attachment that's so unhealthy, because it does impact your life, every aspect. It can hold you back. It can make you very sick, like physically and emotionally. It can really destroy you if you let it, right? You can't You just got to let go and let God. That's my saying. I mean, whether you believe or not, that's what I say all the time. Let go, let God. And it's just like, I feel that presence. Like, of course, when I'm doing healing, it's not me. I'm not the healer. I feel that presence. And that's why I have a strong faith in that. And I don't care what you call your creator. I love you. It doesn't have to be God. It doesn't have to be anything specific. I love saying God. That's what I believe. You can believe whatever you want, but when you have faith in something and you feel that higher power blowing through you and you pray for people you love, then you can let go. You can pray for situations. You can pray for whatever you want and just let go because really you don't have control. The highest source has control, not you. So we got to let go and let people learn and grow through their free will and their destiny.
Well, here's what you do well, and that's why we give you the term love sprinkler, because what you do is you just sprinkle love on them. It's unconditional love, isn't it? Like, you're not expecting anything back in return. And that's the thing, when there's expectations involved, that's when the should involved, and that force, expectation, and shoulds are all part of the same camp. But there's nothing stopping you from sprinkling them with love energetically in your mind. Intention is a powerful tool, and these are some of the tools that if you're feeling that you're stressed or in anxiety over somebody else's choices for their life, and these are people that you love or care about, then the best you can do is go through an exercise within yourself of just, well, look at the fear. Like, what are you scared of? Are you scared of losing them? If we're scared of losing somebody, then make every day the best day it can be until the very end, right? Even if it's 10 years, even if it's 20 years, maybe it's 10 months, I don't know. But you never want that person to leave your life. It's not even just about death. It could be somebody walking away from you, somebody completely rejecting you. It could be that. We go through grievances, breakups with relationships, but always visualize the what ifs, but not in creating or manifesting it, but just be able to be okay without that person. And you'll see the magic of that will bring that person closer to you. Or if it's just not meant for you to be with that person will go anyways. Like, just let it go. And so letting it go doesn't mean you're pushing it away. Letting it go means respect that other person's well-being and their path on this journey of their soul, and let them go. Like, it's unbelievable how we are the ones holding people back from moving forward. It's not them.
Definitely we can cause so much resistance. So much, yeah. And when we're living in fear of losing them, we're not able to fully love them because that fear is holding us back from opening our hearts completely to love them unconditionally, no matter what can happen. Fear just causes needless suffering and energetic blockages. You're not going to feel fully heart-centered and connected to them, which can totally deter them from you. It's a vicious cycle, really.
It is. It is. I think, to end this episode on just how to energetically free yourself from the obligation that we feel towards others' well-being, I think we forget to look at ourselves too, because we get so obsessed with trying to figure out how to get them to be better, or how to communicate it to them, how to get them to do what we want them to do. We spend so much energy on that we're forgetting our own purpose in this life. What are we doing with our life? Forget about everybody else. And I think it's time to really step back and say, okay, hold on, what's important to me? What am I trying to achieve? What am I doing? Because how much energy do you think goes into that? It's a lot of energy. And then the only person that suffers is us in the end. Even after they leave, whether they walk away or die, it's still us alone.
Yeah, it's tough. It's so tough. Yeah, it's hard to set those kind of boundaries. We're not overstepping into their bubble. Like, they have an energetic bubble, and if you're constantly impeding that, it's not good for either one of you, for sure.
No. No, but you know what? Here's the thing. Stay within a community that supports your journey into freeing yourself from the obligation, not freeing yourself from the person, freeing yourself from the obligation and the need to over give or over help. And there is a healthy balance. I'm not saying don't help, but there is a way, and the intention behind it is very powerful. But always make sure that you come first. And it's like, I'm going to leave everybody with this. It's like on the airplane. They always say, put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you put it on your child. And there's a reason. Because if that person is not doing well, you're the only person that's important, that you need to stay healthy and high vibed. And that's important. So the self-care and the self-reflection and the self-work to make sure you stay committed to your goals and your dreams and making sure that you're doing things for yourself is critical. And that's what I want to leave everybody with, as we live in a world of people saving, people pleasing, and this need to overhelp or overgive. Those are my 2 cents. How about you, Nancy?
And that's how you're going to live in a radiant heart. So to me, a radiant heart, and I love talking about this, I have a program for it, and it just really helps people to serve better and not get drained, and to allow the creator to flow through you so that you're not thinking exactly what we've been talking about. Needs to be their path. The creator flowing through you and into them is going to help them to discover their soul's path and to be open to that. So a radiant heart is a heart that's just got so much love flowing through from the divine source that you never get depleted. You're never drained. And yet you're not a psycho control freak either. You know, you're in flow. You're in that higher dimension of love consciousness, and you're just in total flow of service and love. And that's all you need to be. And so when you're doing that and you're taking care of yourself in the ways that Susan described, it's a win-win. Absolutely. And people will benefit more from you from a radiant heart and when your cup's overflowing.
So final last words, famous last words from Nancy Pantilla. Don't be a psycho control freak. And if you're
words of wisdom. I know, I have such a way with words. I really no filter, anything flies out.
If you're a psycho control freak, you don't have a radiant heart, people.
Oh my God.
But you're right.
You make t-shirts out of that. Don't be a psycho control freak.
Don't be a psycho control freak. And you know how many control freaks there are? A lot, believe me.
Oh yeah. I've done it. So yeah, I can totally relate.
Yeah, that's another episode. How not to be a psycho control freak, or how to detect that you are one, even though you think. But
oh my God.
For everybody that's listening out there, thank you for being here with us. But if you're actually watching us on YouTube, please put your comments down on how you're able to set those boundaries and how you keep people you love at arm's length so that you can continue on in your journey of empowerment and higher consciousness. But we really want everybody's comments, because this is a dialogue. Nancy and I only have so many stories we could share of our own and our clients, but I really want to see the truth of everybody out there. Hey, you might think we're full of crap too. Go ahead. Right. That's a creating dialogue. It doesn't matter. We're not here to be right. We're here to just create dialogue so everybody can be heard, seen, and understood. So thank you, Nancy, for sharing your heart on this one. This is such a deep-rooted thing that you and I have gone through and are going through with so many people in our life that are close to us, because we are surrounded by really loving families and friends and so on. So thank you for sharing your heart.
Thank you. Beautiful. Thank you, everyone, for listening. You're amazing, Susan. I even got some stuff out of this from you. So thank you. I love you, love you, love you. You're amazing. I love you all. Thank you for being here.
Love everyone. Love you. And we'll see you on the next episode.
Bye for now.